All right. All right, the committee will come to order in accordance with Rule 3C of our committee rules. The chair notes the presence of a quorum. Without objection, the chair is authorized to declare a recess of the committee at any time. As you know, this meeting was originally noticed for this Friday, but due to possible changes in the voting schedule, we're holding this meeting today instead. Pursuant to Clause 2D of our committee rules, the chair announces that with the concurrence of the vice chair, the notice requirements of Rule 2C are hereby waived. Hearing no objection, this business meeting of the Select Committee is to consider a set of 24 recommendations for streamlining House human resources, overhauling the onboarding process, improving member continuing education opportunities, modernizing House technology, and improving accessibility. And I now recognize myself for 5 minutes to give an opening statement. Today we're taking up our second package of recommendations for modernizing Congress so that we can better serve the American people. As many of you know, this committee has chosen to issue recommendations on a rolling basis. When we have consensus, we move. And I'm really proud of the work that we've done to get here today. The recommendations we'll consider today fit into 4 broad categories. The first set, update HR policies and consolidate the many HR-related offices in the House to provide a one-stop shop to help members and staff with questions about recruitment, retention, diversity, legal counsel, training, and benefits. The second set, overhaul the onboarding process for new members and provide continuing education opportunities for all members. We've heard a lot about how new member orientation should be nonpartisan and should include courses that emphasize the necessity of civility and respect. Rather than divide new members by party as soon as they arrive here for orientation, we should encourage relationship building. Returning members should also have the opportunity to continue learning. The third set of recommendations modernize House technology resources to keep the institution on the cutting edge and emphasize quality IT services to reduce reliance on outside vendors, leverage bulk purchasing power, and save taxpayer dollars. Our fourth set of recommendations establish that all proceedings and functions of the House must be made accessible to all Americans. Tomorrow is the 29th anniversary of the signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And while much progress has been made, there's still a lot of work to do to ensure that Americans with disabilities do not face discrimination. Our recommendations seek to address the equal access challenges persons with disabilities face when working for, visiting, or interacting with the House. I'd like to thank Vice Chair Graves for all of the work that he has done in helping to develop and bring these recommendations forward, and I recognize him for an opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to, on behalf of our entire side here, applaud your efforts and what you've done bringing us to this point. Your leadership of this committee is really remarkable, and we're grateful for that. You've brought Republicans and Democrats together, and you've made this truly a bipartisan effort and a bipartisan committee as well. And that's really why we were able to craft this major package of important recommendations. This committee is special, and I think we all recognize that. Our mission to make Congress better for the American people is so important, and particularly in these days. And we've been able to work together efficiently, respectfully, and without much concern at all for any party affiliation. So through bipartisan collaboration, we today are taking steps to reimagine human resources and how they're managed here in the House of Representatives. We're going to retool how members are developed into leaders, keep the House on the cutting edge of technology, and ensure that those with disabilities have full access to the House of Representatives. But this is truly a team effort, without a doubt, and I want to thank the members of this committee for their many hours of work on these recommendations, and I think everybody should note that the members of this committee all took lead on various issues that were important to them and which they had expertise in breaking down into various working groups and taking difficult issues and finding solutions to apply to some of the challenges we have. So this is the second set of historic rolling recommendations, and today's package is really a big deal, 24 recommendations in total. But stay tuned. Mr. Chairman, I know this committee is far from done from our work ahead, but this is a great step forward, bringing us to a total of 29 recommendations passed out in bipartisan fashion in a historic way. And I yield back. Thank you for your good leadership.
Thank you. And I'd like to recognize the hard work that all the members of this committee have done to pull these recommendations together. I think I'm incredibly fortunate to work with such an engaged group. appreciate the time they've taken to really drill down on these issues and to fully participate in drafting a great set of recommendations. Representatives Woodall and Scanlon took the lead on a lot of our staffing and human resources recommendations. Representatives Del Bene and Davis took the lead on a lot of our technology recommendations. Representative Cleaver took the lead on recommendations focused on civility, and I want to thank them for their hard work. I also want to recognize the hard work of our committee staff who have been 1,000 miles, working 1,000 miles per hour, including being able to, at the last minute, secure the Budget Committee's room. Thank you for that, Budget Committee. With that, I'd like to offer to any of the members of our committee who would like to offer any general comments or speak about any of the recommendations that we're taking up today, I'd like to offer them that opportunity. Ms. Scanlon?
Just briefly, thank you, Chairman Kilmer and Vice Chair Graves, for your leadership in teeing up the package of recommendations. You know, these proposals, both small and large, when implemented, I think really will help Congress become a more modern, efficient, and hopefully responsive body. I'm particularly excited about the changes we've proposed to better support our hardworking staff members who are usually called to Congress out of a desire to do good for the country and not for a desire to go into bankruptcy. So really, really excited about being able to make some progress there. The recommendations that we're offering to build a more racially and economically diverse Congress and staff, provide competitive benefits for staff, such as paid family leave, and more acutely respond to staff concerns as they arise. We've also tried to spell out a vision for a centralized human resources hub to serve both members and staff, not only to manage oversight of the recommendations we've listed, but also to operate with the goal of increasing personnel satisfaction, support, and professional development while addressing dissatisfaction and unwanted turnover among members, committee, and leadership offices. So I'm really wholeheartedly endorsing the staffing recommendations and all the recommendations being voted on here today. And I want to commend the hard work of my team and my colleagues and the committee staff. So thank you. With that, I yield back.
Thank you. Mr. Davis.
Thank you. I want to echo the comments of our colleague, Ms. Scanlon, about your leadership and Mr. Graves' leadership. And I really, again, I don't think we could give enough ovations to the teams that have been working behind the scenes to put these recommendations together. You know, as a former staffer and as a member, I see light at the end of the tunnel and progress being made. However, I want to remind everybody there's still more work to be done. Once we make these recommendations, we've got to stand together in a bipartisan way to sell those recommendations to the rest of our colleagues and to move them through the final legislative process. And I look forward to working with each and every one of you and this team behind me to make sure that that happens, and I yield back.
Thank you. Are there any further comments? Mr. Newhouse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to echo those comments. I think this first tranche of recommendations that we pass here today will show the rest of the Congress that we truly are serious about the job that we've been tasked with to modernize this institution, to make some necessary improvements. And I'm excited about the product that we have today and the working relationship that everybody has worked very well together. And I'm looking forward to a very fruitful rest of the effort that we have. And I just also wanted to comment that both you and Mr. Graves look great on a TV larger than a sheet of plywood. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Mr. Cleaver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I too, as I hope everybody, at least on the committee, appreciate the leadership we've received from you and Vice Chair Graves. I was thinking about this last evening at an event where at a dinner where issues of the future of Congress and where we're going. And I thought about this, the fact that we have put together some very serious recommendations on modernizing this institution, and we've done so in an atmosphere of bipartisanship, not this fake bipartisanship that we hear about sometimes, but real. And you, Mr. Chairman, broke it down to the point where staffs are working together and we all are working together. Nobody's called anybody any names. The media won't come because we're not fighting. And so I think that just this document and the work that we're doing is in and of itself a statement to to our colleagues that this can be done, and done in a very deliberate, with strong opinions, but with deep respect for one another. So thank you for what you've done so far. And I do think we have to stand up, and all of us stand behind our two leaders, and provide them with all the support we can in front of our colleagues.
Go ahead, Mr. Woodall.
Mr. Chairman, it's happened so often, the Reverend inspired me, and as you go through some of the items on this list, some of them are bigger lifts than others. And what is so striking to me about the environment that you and Vice Chairman Graves have created is the things on here that seem like just good common sense. You might not have been able to get them done in a Republican-led Congress because folks are thinking, hey, what's that Republican advantage they're going to get by doing this? Might not be able to do it in a Democratically-led Congress because folks are thinking, what's the partisan advantage someone's seeking by doing this? The environment you all have put together here lets us go and do those things that, yes, maybe we should have done those 15, 20 years ago, but we just didn't have an environment that allowed folks to come together on that. It's not fake bipartisanship. It's genuine work ethic and care for an institution and for a nation, and I'm grateful to you. And I hope when folks see even the smallest of the things on this list, they think, you know what? Thank goodness Congress finally created an environment where we could get the most common sense things done.
Thank you. All right, if there's no further comments, I also want to, because I literally just saw Chair Lofgren on the television in the other room, so I want to thank her for setting the land speed record. But when in your absence, I had thanked our staff, but I want to thank her for the generosity, not just of herself, but of the staff of the House Administration Committee, that were very active in the development of these recommendations and in making sure that we stuck the landing. So if there's no further comments or questions, we'll now move to vote on the recommendations contained in the committee materials provided to members. In order to expedite consideration of these recommendations, I ask unanimous consent for en bloc consideration of recommendations 1 through 5, having to do with streamlining and organizing House Human Resources. Okay, without objection, so ordered. I now call on the clerk to read recommendations 1 through 5.
Recommendation 1, create a one-stop shop human resources hub dedicated to member, committee, and leadership MCL staff. Led by an HR deputy director and comprised of existing offices and staff of the House, the office will be responsible for assisting MCL offices to improve the recruitment and retention of a diverse workforce, develop best practices that can be utilized by offices, and provide recommendations for competitive compensation and benefits to House staff. Recommendation 2, make permanent the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. Recommendation 3, examine the viability of updating the staff payroll system with the goal of transitioning from monthly to semi-monthly pay. Recommendation 4, raise the cap on the number of permanent staff and additional staff allowed to work in member offices. Recommendation 5, regularly survey staff on ways to improve pay, benefits, and quality of life.
Thank you. All in favor of recommendations 1 through 5 say aye. 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 All those opposed to recommendations 1 through 5 say no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 being in the affirmative, the ayes have it. I now ask unanimous consent for en bloc consideration of recommendations 6 through 11, having to do with overhauling the onboarding process and providing continuing education for members. Without objection so ordered, I now call on the clerk to read recommendations 6 through 11.
Recommendation 6, through the office of the clerk, newly elected members should have the option to hire and pay one transition staff member for the duration of the time between when they are elected and are sworn in. Recommendation 7, orientation courses and services should be available to all new members, including those incoming from a special election, and presented in a nonpartisan way. Recommendation 8, orientation should be reimagined and reorganized to offer a just-in-time approach where appropriate. Recommendation 9, offer a course in the new member orientation and ongoing education portal to instruct members on the House rules of decorum and debate and other practices to promote civility and respect. Recommendation 10, create a pilot congressional leadership academy for members which offers professional development and institutional training. Recommendation 11, make cybersecurity training mandatory for members.
All in favor of recommendations 6 through 11, say aye. Aye. All those opposed to recommendations 6 through 11, say no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 being in the affirmative, the ayes have it. I now ask unanimous consent for en bloc consideration of recommendations 12 through 21 having to do with modernizing and revitalizing House technology. Without objection, so ordered. I now call on the clerk to read recommendations 12 through 21.
Recommendation 12, reestablish an improved Office of Technology Assessment, OTA, to study and recommend emerging technologies, provide nonpartisan information and policy analysis to member offices, support legislative branch agencies in their examination of new technologies, focus on general oversight and policy, and facilitate peer reviews of potential new technologies. Recommendation 13, reform House Information Resources, HIR, by partnering with outside entities to develop a roadmap for addressing the root cause of HIR's systemic inability to deliver enterprise programs and IT services in a timely manner that satisfies member office needs. Recommendation 14, require HIR to, as soon as practically possible, allow the following. A, video calls from member and staff mobile devices or computers. B, in conjunction with the clerk's office, allow secure e-signatures for letters, bills, and constituent consent forms. C, set up a VPN on any device and develop relevant security guidelines. D, constituents to upload casework and requests digitally through a member's website. Recommendation 15, require HIR to create an approval process for outside vendors developing new technologies that is transparent, scheduled, and timely. Recommendation 16, HIR should create a program that allows member offices to opt in to beta test new technologies. Recommendation 17, creating one point of contact for each member office within HIR who would be responsible for all technology points of contact, including technology, telecom, web, district office technologies, etc. Recommendation 18, create a customer satisfaction portal on HouseNet that allows members and staff to rate and review outside vendors and HIR services. Recommendation 19, the CAO should leverage the bulk purchasing power of the House and provide a standard suite of quality, up-to-date devices and software, such as desktop and laptop computers, tablets, printers, mobile phones, and desk phones at no cost to the MRA. Recommendation 20, the Congressional Research Service should prioritize a rapid response program for nonpartisan fact sheets on key issues and legislation under consideration in Congress. Recommendation 21, develop a nonpartisan constituent engagement and services best practices page on HouseNet.
Thank you. All in favor of recommendations 12 through 21, say aye. Aye. All those opposed to recommendations 12 through 21, say no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 being in the affirmative, the ayes have it. I now ask unanimous consent for en bloc consideration of recommendations 22 to 24 having to do with making the House accessible to all Americans. Without objection, so ordered. I now call on the clerk to read recommendations 22 to 24.
Recommendation 22, scan and analyze all House websites and apps to determine the accessibility level of each congressional website and provide resources and assistance to ensure all systems are compatible with common programs used by major disability groups. Recommendation 23, require all House proceedings that are broadcast on TV or streamed on the internet to provide closed caption services and provide a free captioning service for all web videos created by MCL offices. Recommendation 24, require a comprehensive review of the Capitol grounds to determine accessibility challenges for individuals with disabilities conducted by the Architect of the Capitol, Sergeant at Arms, and the Office of Congressional Workplace Rights, and implement a remediation plan.
Thank you. All in favor of recommendations 22 to 24, say aye. Aye. All those opposed to recommendations 22 to 24, say no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 being in the affirmative, the ayes have it. I now move that the committee vote to adopt the committee report containing these 24 recommendations and report it favorably to the House. All in favor of adopting the committee report, say aye. Aye. All those opposed to adopting the committee report, say no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 being in the affirmative, the ayes have it. Pursuant to Rule 5A of this committee, a report summarizing the approved recommendations will be compiled and submitted to the House. Without objection, committee staff shall hereby be authorized to make technical and conforming changes to the report approved today. In accordance with Rule 5A of this committee, members shall have 3 days from the time of the approval of the compiled report to submit supplemental or additional views, which shall be included as part of the report. Before we conclude our business today, I again want to thank the members of this committee for engaging in this process of putting together and passing our second set of recommendations. I also just want to thank you for showing up. I know that we had to move scheduling around on the fly, and I'm very grateful for everyone's flexibility. As we all know, this committee does not have legislative jurisdiction, but I think we're all committed to seeing that the recommendations of this committee be enacted. And to Mr. Davis's point, there's more work from here. As with our first set of recommendations, I plan to introduce legislative text to effectuate the recommendations voted on today, and I will invite all members of this community to sign on as co-sponsors. And with that, without objection, the committee stands adjourned. Thanks, everybody.